couple of weeks ago, it was my birthday. Now, some of you may be reflexively thinking, oh, well, happy birthday. Hold off. You might want to hear what I have to say first. Now, a very small number of you knew that it was my birthday, but the vast majority of you didn't. And let's be completely real for a moment. When you get right down to it, you don't really care. You're not rude. You know in the abstract sense that one of the days is my birthday, and you generally wish me well, but really, it's not something that affects you very much, so days do not go by with you wondering, is today Rabbi Reeves' birthday? And if so, how can I wish him a happy one? So it was my birthday. And that was that. Until I logged onto Facebook. A few years ago, it was news that I was on Facebook. I was one of the first staff members here at the temple to get a Facebook account, and I remember other people on staff here, I won't name names, but they swore that they would never be on Facebook, and today I am friends with these people. But it's not news to be on Facebook any longer. It's not even news to say that my mother is on Facebook. It is almost, not quite, but almost like saying you have email. Big whoop. Although I understand that some of the younger set apparently are eschewing email altogether and just going to Facebook itself. Like I said, I had a birthday, I'm getting older. I can say things like younger set and eschewing in the same sentence. So I log onto Facebook, and my wall, which frankly is a pretty quiet place most days, because I have difficulty imagining that anyone cares what I had for lunch. My wall is overrun. The number of people who wished me a happy birthday on Facebook was very surprising to me. The interesting thing about it was that the people who were wishing me happy birthday on Facebook were not people generally that I had seen since my last birthday. By and large, if you had asked me, I would have said that these people did not know when my birthday was. But unlike most of us in this room, Facebook knew when my birthday was, and Facebook does not keep secrets. It let everyone who was remotely connected to me know that it was my birthday, and a number of these people took the very small step of typing happy birthday and clicking on a button to send me their well wishes. Now, I mentioned the idea that all of these people to whom I never actually spoke were wishing me happy birthday on Facebook to a friend of mine, and the response was, I know! Isn't it great? I love hearing from all those people that I've lost touch with. Perhaps I'm on the Scrooge side of this equation, but I'm not really sure that I gained touch with those people by hearing from them. And then I thought of one of the teachings of Hillel, the great first-century Jewish sage. Hillel taught, Al tifrosh min hatzibur, do not separate yourself from the community. Now, this is the kind of advice that rabbis have been able to take advantage of almost from the moment that Hillel said it. If we look around the room today, we see the community of the Temple Hebrew Benevolent Congregation. Here we are. Go ahead, look around. There's lots of us here. Look around. Here we are. Following Hillel, we should not separate ourselves from our community. This bit of advice may mean something slightly different for some of us than it does for others of us, but there are certain basic norms that this idea calls on us to perform. One of those basic norms is attending High Holy Day services. So here we all are. So many of us observe Hillel's maxim in reference to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services that we have to have double services in order to accommodate everyone. Imagine, for a moment, if we do not limit the idea about attending services only to the High Holy Days, and we had to have double services every Shabbat. Oh, I'm getting ahead of mine, sorry. But seriously, there are other ways in which we have internalized the concept of not removing ourselves from the community. In other words, there are other things that we see as an obligation that by being part of the temple, we need to do, or we have set ourselves outside. A key example of which is providing our children with a religious education. In other words, sending them to our Bremen Religious School, the Davis Academy, or one of the other Jewish schools in Atlanta. We understand that the education of our children in our Jewish tradition is an important part of community involvement. And we could each one of us expand on what those commitments to our community is that keep us from separating from it. We could also easily expand what we mean by community beyond the temple to the larger Atlanta Jewish community, the larger American community, the world community of Jews, the community of humanity. And as we expand our understanding of community in these different ways and apply the idea of not separating ourselves from community at these different levels, different obligations present themselves. Donating to Federation, volunteering for the Zabin Couples Center, voting in elections, visiting Israel, preferably on the trip that the temple is taking next summer. I know this is a shameless plug, but you're all here. As we expand our idea of community to the community of all of humanity, we could even understand safeguarding our environment. Our identity as Jews puts all of these obligations on us because separating ourselves from our community is not the Jewish way. But could Hillel have really meant all of these different obligations when he spoke in the first century? If we look at this quote from Hillel in the larger context of what he said, we can see that he probably did. The full quote of Hillel from this part of Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, is, "Do not separate yourself from the community. Do not be sure of yourself until the day of your death. Do not judge your fellow until you have reached his place. Do not say anything unless its full meaning and implication are understood immediately. And do not say, 'When I have leisure time, I will study,' for you may never have leisure time." According to Rabbi Zeph Lev, each one of these seemingly unrelated statements are actually an expansion of the first rule, not to separate oneself. He writes, "Do not be sure of yourself until the day of your death. Do not think that you are strong enough spiritually to function on your own without the support of Jewish community. Do not rely on your apparent spiritual security, for it is never guaranteed. Do not judge your fellow until you have reached its place. In your criticism of the other members of the community, don't convince yourself that you would be better off separated from them. Rather, judge them favorably and understand the circumstances that generate those actions which offend you. See their good points. Avoid what is negative without separating yourself entirely. Do not say anything unless its full meaning and implication are understood immediately." People are sometimes frustrated that their views and opinions are not accepted by the community. Perhaps the opinions that are not accepted because the fault lies within your own views and not in the community's. Perhaps one's own opinions are not fit to be heard and accepted. And finally, do not say that when I have leisure time, I'll study, for you may never have leisure. There are those who feel that community responsibilities infringe too greatly on their time and potential for personal development. They therefore conclude that disassociating themselves from communal involvement will give them more time to learn. Never reckon that time can be generated by avoiding a mitzvah. That time might never materialize. Rabbi Lev here shows us that Hillel was anticipating all kinds of different situations when he made his statement. And so it is fully appropriate to expand his instructions to deal with these other issues. And so we ask, is it too much to apply Hillel's statement to online communities?